It appears that Republicans are in a good position in the key swing state of Wisconsin. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and today it is time to talk about the 2024 presidential election because everyone... The state of Wisconsin is arguably one of the most critical swing states in the upcoming election, obviously. There's a key Senate race, but most importantly, there's a critical presidential race that if either candidate wins Wisconsin, more than likely they're going to win the presidency, and both campaigns know it. And while things could change, I mean, we are in June, the polling could be off by a little bit. Either way, Republicans are looking very good at both the presidential level and the Senate level. Now, before we continue with today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Again, folks, all support is greatly appreciated, and yeah. Now, let us get into it because I personally believe that of all the swing states, I think Wisconsin is getting the least talked about. For whatever reason, no one's talking about Wisconsin, and I think that's kind of a travesty because, let's face it, if Trump wins Wisconsin, more than likely, he's going to win the presidency. It's not a guarantee that if he wins Wisconsin, he wins, but I just highly doubt that if he did win Wisconsin, that he would somehow lose a presidency. I guess it's possible there is a pathway where he does win Wisconsin, but he does lose the presidency. The problem is, I just think that's so unlikely that it's just not going to happen. But either way, as of now, Trump is leading in the RCP aggregate by 0.3%. In other words, according to RCP, it's a very close race. But there's a couple catches to this lead Trump has. For one, it should be much more. This Quinnipiac poll needs to be thrown out. Like, really? Biden +6 in Wisconsin. Really? And this wasn't a poll like 5 months ago. You know, they could say, oh, well, it was early, things could have changed. Nope. This was in early May. Right after the New York Times released their Trump +1 poll. Right before the Bloomberg poll that had Trump up by 1 also. Hell, even after Marquette found a Trump +2. You know, in a state that Biden won by just less than 20,000 votes, somehow, by some miracle, I don't know how they did this, they magically found that no, Trump is going to lose Wisconsin by 6 points. Really? That is delusional. If you really think that he's going to lose Wisconsin by 6 points, that's insane. You could argue he's going to lose it by a point. Fine. But to say that Trump is down by 5 to 6 points in Wisconsin, that's not going to happen. So this lead Trump has is probably closer to 1 to 2 points. If you take out this one poll, Trump's lead would be closer to 2 points than being virtually tied. But the critical thing is, Trump has been leading in the RCP aggregate in Wisconsin since February. Yeah. Ever since January 31st, actually, he's been leading every single day. Now, to be fair to Biden, there hasn't been that much polling in Wisconsin. There's been some, but look at this. There's been one poll since June. There's been 1 or 2 in, or actually 3 in May. It's like, okay, we're not getting the most polls out of Wisconsin compared to other states. And like I'm saying, for whatever reason, we're not talking about Wisconsin enough. I don't know why, but we're talking more about states like Nevada, states like, Minnesota or Virginia. And you would think, okay, well, Wisconsin's a state that was very close in 2020. Wouldn't you be talking about this arguably the most of all the swing states? Maybe like Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona, maybe more, but we're not really talking about Wisconsin when you talk about the election. We're all talking about Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, but Wisconsin is being left out. But the crazy thing about this lead Trump has, which it is, according to RCP, just a 0.3% lead, which I still think is misleading because of this one poll, but either way, he's been leading since February. Remember, back in 2020, RCP had Trump losing Wisconsin by 7 points. Yeah. He lost by just under 1%. That is a big polling miss. And back in 2016, it was even worse. Yeah. The polling in Wisconsin, especially in recent years, at the presidential level in particular, is atrocious. I really believe that you can't trust Wisconsin polling. Even this Trump one lead. We'll just say Trump +1 because screw the Quinnipiac poll. Get that out of the average. But either way, this Trump +1 lead could be much more like closer to Trump +5, Trump +6. But at the same time, theoretically at least, it could be like Biden +3, Biden +4. Wisconsin polling is just bad. But that's just the reality of Wisconsin polling. And that's why, the polling in Wisconsin, I usually just ignore. You can't use it. Sometimes you can, sometimes it's spot on. But more than enough, it's just off by like an ungodly amount. But there's a reason for this, because of all the swing states, states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, states like Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin usually has the biggest polling misses. Why is that? Because you would think, oh, Wisconsin, I mean, that's a swing state. Shouldn't they know how to poll the state? Well, guess what? The reality is the pollsters still don't understand Wisconsin. It's not just Madison and Milwaukee, and this is a big cope by everyone. They think, oh, Wisconsin's entire population lives in Milwaukee and lives in Dane County, and that's it. No one else lives in the rest of the state. That's actually false. Dane and Milwaukee combined make up for 20% of the vote? Yeah, that's it. 20% of the vote comes from two counties. People make it sound like it's 60%. I don't even think it's 20%. It's maybe closer to 15%. And you have to include places like Waukesha, Ozaukee, Washington, just to maybe get 30 to 40% of the vote. The vast majority of the vote comes from outside of Madison and Milwaukee. That's a fact. And that's why polling sucks in Wisconsin. They cannot reach voters in places like Lincoln County, places like Price, Barron, hell, even the Driftless, places like Crawford. They cannot poll these people for the life of them. They just can't contact them. And that's why you see a lot of polls, like back in 2020, you had Biden +10, Biden +11. Hell, where is it? Right here, ABC News, Biden +17. That was a real poll. They had Biden winning by 17 points. Not, 6 months before the election. No. In middle of October, they found, Biden had a 17-point lead. I'm not even kidding you. That's what it says right here. A 17-point lead. Yeah. That's what we're talking about. Wisconsin polling is just awful. It's terrible because they cannot contact these people in the rest of the state. So they contact more people in places like Milwaukee, places like Madison, and guess what? These voters are much more Democrat than in, say, Dodge County even. Hell, even places like, Outagamie. It's much more Republican than Madison, but they can't reach these voters. They just can't. That's why Wisconsin polling is usually awful. They can't reach 80% of the state. And the rare times they contact voters in the rest of the state, it's in places like Eau Claire and La Crosse, much more Democrat areas. That's the reality of it. But the thing about polling in Wisconsin this cycle is right now, Trump is leading. Go back to 2020, okay? Yes, for a couple days in the middle of March, he did have a lead. Trump did. But outside of that, he was getting crushed. Look at this. Biden right here, Biden +7 in the middle of June, the same time. Biden +7. Right now, Trump +0.3. And you notice during the summer, Biden's lead, quote unquote, expanded. Yeah, it expanded. Now, you could argue if that was a George Floyd protest. Well, go back to 2016. The same thing occurred. Clinton +9 in March. In the summer, it went to Clinton +11. So we're in the same time frame as 2016 and 2020. Both times, Democrats surged, okay? In the middle of June and stuff. Right now, again, the polling is scarce, but we had Emerson release a poll and they still found a Trump +3. So we're not seeing a surge in Wisconsin for Biden. And again, the polling in the state could be off. I understand that. I agree that it probably is off by a couple points. But do you really think we're going to see a 3-point miss in favor of Biden? Really? I highly, highly, highly doubt that. Just because it hasn't happened before. In the last couple presidential cycles with Trump on the ballot, Trump has outperformed the polling in Wisconsin both times by 7 points. Does that mean he's going to outperform the polls by 7 points? Of course not. No one is arguing that. But the fact that he's now leading, and has been leading since February, is significant. That's not just, he's up for one day and that's it. That's a trend. That's not a fluke. So, I think at the presidential level, Trump is in a really good position in Wisconsin. Now, the thing about Wisconsin is there is a key Senate race. Tammy Baldwin versus Eric Hovde. Now, I want to be clear about one thing. I still think Baldwin is the favorite. But that doesn't mean Eric Hovde is going to lose by 7.5%. That's just not going to happen. Now, I think Baldwin's lead is inflated because Eric Hovde still doesn't have universal name recognition. But even with that in mind, Quinnipiac is just full of themselves. If they really found a Baldwin plus 12 poll, same for the Cook Political Report, but we'll just say, fine. Eric Hovde has low name recognition. That's why, as of now, he's losing. But here's the thing, though, about the polling lead for Baldwin. Go back to 2016, okay? Just back to 2016, all right? Now, this was a very unique race in Wisconsin where Ron Johnson was the incumbent senator, right? He won in 2010. Feingold was the senator that Ron Johnson beat back in 2016. So, technically, you could say this was an incumbent versus an incumbent race. Whatever. Well, go back to just June 20th, all right? June 20th. Feingold had a 7.5 point lead over Johnson. Yeah, 7.5 point lead. More than, as of now, Baldwin has. Slightly more. I'm not saying there's going to be a 10-point miss. But funny enough, Eric Hovde is actually pulling better than Ron Johnson. Hell, look at the middle of July. They were finding Feingold is up by 10 points. Obviously, that didn't happen. Ron Johnson won by 3.5 points. Now, that doesn't mean there's going to be a 14-point miss in favor of Eric Hovde. I'm not saying that at all. But this lead that, Baldwin has is actually less than Feingold had back in 2016. And Feingold lost. Now, to be fair, this is a separate race. Feingold was the former senator, and you could argue, well, he was still well-liked, and he just lost because of a red wave. Fine. But I still find it kind of funny that, Feingold had a bigger lead than Baldwin does right now against virtually no one. And Feingold was going against Ron Johnson. It was effectively a senator versus senator race, it was. But Ron Johnson was the incumbent. And he ended up winning by 3.5 points. So this lead that Baldwin has is, ironically enough, not as much of a lead as Feingold had back in 2016. But we do got to see what happens. I do think, however, Eric Hovde will come very close to winning. I still think at the end of the day, Baldwin will win. But it will be her closest race ever. We just got to see what happens. But if you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.